So recently, there has been this YouTube video I simply can't stop thinking about, and it's this video by the YouTuber Feats, searching for a world that doesn't exist. This video is a piece of Minecraft unfiction, which starts as a perfectly normal Minecraft mystery, but descends into insanity as the main character of the story begins to battle powers beyond human comprehension. This video has blown up in popularity, particularly here on YouTube, but even more so on websites like TikTok and Twitter, generating massive amounts of fan art, fan theories, videos, and edits. In this video, I'm going to focus on the protagonist of this story and the main character whose gameplay we follow for a majority of the video, Durlord 3, and how this general abilities, IQ, knowledge, quick thinking, and sheer willpower make him genuinely one of the smartest characters in all of horror media. We're talking about one of the naturally most intelligent characters in non-science fiction and fantasy media. Death Note levels of IQ feats here. It goes without saying, but please watch the original video first before watching this video to both support the original creator, but also so you can fully understand everything I'm talking about. I'll give you a second to watch the video. Pause right now. In the meantime, you can also subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. But regardless, let's jump right in. Okay, so if you just watched that video and haven't seen anything else, I bet you have a lot of questions. We will eventually get to the mystery at the center of this video, and most importantly, what is most likely behind that golden door at the end, as it gives even more context for Durlord's insane abilities. But for now, we need to start at the very beginning, breaking down the order of events that Durlord experiences and the immense level of IQ he displays throughout this video, in order to show how pretty much anyone else in his situation would have completely failed to survive or get as much information as he did. Now, first things first, I won't be glazing the general knowledge of Minecraft that Durlord has, as they aren't really important here, but yes, he knows how to use doors and torches to get air underwater, remembers to turn on creative mode to not starve, and knows how to negate fall damage with a bow. These are not the type of IQ feats we're talking about, because anyone doing a normal Minecraft playthrough or challenge could do these things. So now let's jump into the real feats. The first instance of Durlord's IQ isn't something we're immediately told about in the summary video, or may even notice when going through the raw footage of his experience. Almost immediately upon entering the cave, aside from the weird impossible environmental details, Durlord almost instantly catches on that something is following him. By suddenly stopping and starting to set torches, Durlord catches the footsteps of an entity following him, even if he can't see it. What's more, Durlord intentionally calls no attention to this, not instantly investigating or typing out that he's being followed, and instead continues to explore the impossible space. This demonstrates several kinds of intelligence right off the bat. Number 1. Perception. The fact that Durlord even notices footsteps out of place is an intelligence feat in and of itself. The entity probably makes one extra step only a handful of times, and yet Durlord correctly figures out that this is abnormal, paying attention to sound, even though the visuals is far more important for his situation. 2. Theory testing. Durlord stops multiple times in pretty intentional spots after overlapping footsteps are heard. Well, maybe the first couple of times he didn't notice, the moment he has a suspicion of being followed, he kept his behavior essentially the same, but tested to make sure his senses were correct, which they were. 3. Interpersonal intelligence. Not only does Durlord determine he's being followed, but he correctly decides to act like he is not being followed. He figures out that clearly whatever is following him does not want him to know, or it wouldn't attempt to overlap footsteps with him. Therefore, he keeps his cards close in this unknown situation, the smarter strategic play when up against something with unknown capabilities. Moving on from here, Durlord doesn't explain IQ feat again for a little while, mostly because he takes time to explore the unknown and clearly anomalous environment. He then has a run-in the cave with the entity for the first time, quite literally getting mentally and physically manipulated and compelled by the being to go further into the depths by jumping into the water. So this isn't exactly an anti-feat or anything. The worst thing he does is reveal he knew he was being followed, but at that point the entity was clearly making itself known. The only feat I'd say he has in the underwater section is hiding from the entity when it passes through. But again, I think anyone in this situation magician would have done something similar. After making his way through the tunnels, he arrives in the next open area, where he pulls off probably the second most impressive thing he does from a normal intelligence standpoint. The video itself does a pretty good job explaining these feats, but even then, I think they underplay the layers of mental planning that go into it. So let me break it down. Durlord sets multiple simultaneous traps for the entity following him, both mentally and physically within the game. Let's break the mind game down and traps in order. Step 1. Durlord sets a physical barrier by plugging up the hole he came through. This way, in his exact path is being followed by someone, in order to not be caught, they would need to not only break through the hole, but then perfectly recreate the blocks as they were, already slowing down the thing following him and making them work to stay hidden. Step 2. He announces in-game that he has done this, also mentioning loading the chunk. This is actually a key mental trap for the entity, making it seem like he only has two plans, the wall and his next chunk loading test. This is the opposite kind of strategy from before with the footsteps. Instead of hiding his plans, he fakes his plans under the assumption the entity can read his chat messages. This also slows down the pursuer while he explores by making them look for his chunk tester in the first place. Step 3. This is the actual main plan, the hopper. Essentially, by lowering his render distance, the hopper acts as a security system. While he's gone, the hopper deloads and doesn't function, but if someone comes into the area and loads it, it will activate and show that someone has been there. Step 4. He buries it so it's hard to find, as the only way to actually not be suspicious is not only finding the hopper, but refilling it with the exact same items that were in it previously. Once again, even if the entity could somehow do all of these things, it may be slowed down enough to be seen and caught on his return. Step 5. As he leaves to properly explore, he randomly sets down a block of grass next to a block of dirt, not mentioning it like the other plans or calling any attention to it at all. This again is a trap on multiple levels. If the grass grows, the chunk has loaded. It will also lend credence one way or the other if the entity can read his chat messages or knows what he's doing at all times, as he set it up to go after the first two plans rather than this third one. That is a 5-step plan executed well under 5 minutes on the fly, both taking into account the limitations of the game environment, manipulating the knowledge of his opponent, and setting up stalling roadblocks within those tests to make them easier to catch and prove the existence of his opponent. It's here again where he displays immense spatial awareness and mental imaging, two more types of IQ, as he pretty easily notices these unmarked signs pointing to a secret hole to dig through. This one again is pretty blatantly explained in the original video and doesn't really need any further explanation. Keeping track of these converging lines with no prep in real time is really impressive. Upon returning to his traps, Durlord once again shows an immense strategic play, bringing all 3 of his traps to a close. Step 6. Upon returning, he finds that his 2 obvious traps are untouched, but his secret trap, the grass, has gone off. The grass grew, meaning that someone else had been there. However, in chat, he writes that no one came, once again feigning ignorance to hide his knowledge. However, in chat, he writes what he is really thinking and just doesn't send the message, revealing that he knows he's not alone for sure now. In short, with his limited knowledge and clearly inferior capabilities to his pursuer, outplayed them and caught them red-handed. From here, Durlord gets to the maze, and I really don't have too much to say here. He uses blocks to keep track of where he's been, very smart strategy, and the best to do in short time. It's here though where he arrives to his most impressive feat from a real-world standpoint: solving the cipher. Durlord comes to a massive wall with some sort of code written on it, requiring someone to solve it and then flip levers as described to open a door. As shown, Durlord gets a pen and paper and solves it in less than 20 minutes. Now, at first, this doesn't seem too impressive. People can solve simple substitution ciphers in around 10 minutes or so with little training. The thing that makes it really impressive is that Durlord says this was from cipher stacking, putting 2 completely unknown codes on top of one another to double scramble the code. Simply put, to solve this at all, alone in 17 minutes requires either superhuman luck of guessing 2 correct keys in a row from essentially infinite possibilities, or being unnaturally intelligent, almost superhumanly so. For reference, from what I've seen, people are only now potentially solving what it means weeks later, and only got that answer through using metatextual clues like the word yellow that Durlord would not yet know the significance of until after the door had been opened. From here though, ironically, after solving this poem, he just breaks through the door with a pickaxe, a simple bit of thinking outside the box and another point for his IQ. The majority of the rest of this video is Durlord exploring the abandoned town before finally coming to the final stretch, the notorious crossroads. Durlord turns left as the very structure of the Minecraft world itself begins to bend and warp, but curiosity pushes him forward and he gets to the open golden doors. Looking inside, the image is censored by Durlord himself. From here, he runs the other way, digs his way out to the very room he started in, and writes one final message. The iconic "Don't Turn Left" message, revealing vaguely at least everything he could determine. It's listening, it's watching, it's not from this world, you can't outsmart it. He then makes a code and the video ends. So this is when the video goes from the limits of humanity to well beyond it. What did Durlord see? It's the King in Yellow, or at least an interpretation of it. Look at any post or fan art about this video and you'll see the King in Yellow. Now, this video isn't super about the King in Yellow, but at least for the sake of this video, the King in Yellow is a god across numerous Lovecrafty and adjacent mythologies that is generally associated with driving people mad or making them experience knowledge far beyond their comprehension, which also drives them mad just by experiencing it. There are numerous clues that point to the King in Yellow being the entity behind that black censor bar. The village having the yellow theme, the yellow doors, Durlord 3 might literally mean the Lord in Yellow, and how the riddle is likely solved with the word yellow. And clearly, Durlord gains supernatural knowledge after this. Not only does he not go insane from looking at this incomprehensible god, he at bare minimum looked at it a second time when he censored the video. After this experience, he knows about things that haven't even happened yet, essentially gaining future sight, knowing the exact name of the person who will read his message and get his computer, Avery. He also somehow manages to make a Google Drive folder with the exact link based on a code from one frame of Avery's inventory that he hadn't even seen. So what do I make of Durlord? Well, firstly, I think there was only really one thing he was wrong about, and that was that you can't outsmart the King in Yellow. This is simply wrong, and he was the one that proved that. Clearly, he was traumatized and potentially saw the infinite knowledge of the universe, but he did outplay the god. The grass block trap proves it. Something so simple, but so damning. A mortal managed to outplay a god, and even though he couldn't see it, proved that he can be beaten. If not by him, then maybe someone else. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. This is definitely the most niche video I've ever made, so please, if you liked it, do all that lovely stuff that supports the video. Also, again, shout out to Wi-Fi for this incredible video, as well as all the fan artists who have brought this story further to life. But that's going to be all from me. See ya.